Okay. I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Smith at this time.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. For the next item that we want to take care of today, before we swear in the new school board members, we want to recognize the service of our outgoing board members. And so I have a few comments that I'll be making, and then I have a token of appreciation that I'd like to present to them. We'll go around to the front of the dais, and I'll hand that presentation to the board member, and then we'll go over to our photograph area, and so we'll take a picture. But just prior to doing that, want to give Mr. Tom Kennedy and Joe Veracruz an opportunity to share any parting words. We can start with Mr. Joe Veracruz.
Well, thank you, Dr. Smith. Thought long and hard about this, and of course it's not easy, but a couple things I always share with everyone is I thought I was Superman until I got here and met Dr. Smith. And I tell everybody that, and the thing about that is I said, well, I'm going to have to turn my cape in, get another turbocharge and a tune-up if I want to keep up with him. But I tell you what, Dr. Smith, you, obviously the board, and your senior leadership team, they are a well-oiled machine. And I'm going to miss you guys, but I'll be right up the street. So, but I thank you for all that you've done. And like I told y'all when I got here, it's going to take a village, and it took one, and I really appreciate it. Love you guys. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job, Joe. We do thank you for your service and appreciate your time on the school board. We really do. You've added a lot to the group.
Thank you.
And is there
Any other comments?
I just want to say, Joe, we're going to miss you. Smiling all the time, for what, I don't know. But we're really going to miss you. You added a lot, and I want to really thank you for all you've done for us.
And Joe, thank you for your service. Most of all, I love your prayers. Our brother on our board, and I appreciate you. They're always heartfelt, and I know that you've had a heart for kids, and I appreciate your service, and I'm jealous that the city's going to have you. But we wish you well. Good luck, and thank you.
Joe, it's been a pleasure and an honor serving with you, and I know you're going to do great things with the city. The short time that we've known each other, I have so much respect for you. Just, yeah, you will be missed.
Yes, you will be missed, and what I'm going to miss most is just your servant attitude every day. You don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk, and it shows every day. And I have appreciated your friendship and all that you've done and given to this district.
Thank you. Also, Joe, I appreciate your service, always there to support, always a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. And so I know the city of Duncanville is going to be really fortunate to have your temperament and your leadership represented at the city level. So appreciate your service, and we'll stay connected.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, next we want to pass the baton over to Mr. Tom Kennedy for a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. It's been a long time. 21 years is a lot of time to let go, even though there was a brief time in between those times where I wasn't here. But I want to thank a lot of people, and I'll probably forget some people, but first I want to thank my wife for allowing me to be involved and do this, because it was an honor to serve and to be involved. This is a great school district, and we're doing great things. We've come a long way, and I just want to thank all the members of Dr. Smith's leadership team for the work you do, because you guys are what makes it happen. We're just here, And I know it wouldn't be done if it wasn't for the work that you and Dr. Smith have done. I did want to say too, and being here such a long time, I've worked with a lot of superintendents, about 7 of them, I think. I lose count after a while. But Dr. Smith, I want to thank you because by far you've been the best. The 3 years that you've been here, we've done more good things for kids than we did in the other 18 years that I served. And that's not saying anything bad about the other superintendents. It's just that Dr. Smith had a plan. He came in and worked that plan and made it happen. And that's just what it's all about. We're supposed to be about kids, and I believe Dr. Smith and his team are for kids. And the rest of the board, I've enjoyed the time I've been with you. I've worked, again, with a number of different board people, but this board that we have here now is probably one of the best boards I've served with. We worked together. We worked hard. We did things. We had disagreements. Sometimes we didn't always get along, but we always worked it out, and we still liked each other after the meeting. So that's an important thing to me, that we could have done that. There's just so many people to thank and to do, but I want to make sure, too, that I express my appreciation to the teachers and staff because they're the ones that make it go. They're the ones that reach the kids and change their lives, not us, them. And it couldn't happen without dedicated teachers and staff people, and I just want them to know how much I appreciate what they've done over the 21 years I've been involved in this. A lot of things I'll miss about this. A lot of people said, well, there's other things you can do. Well, I hope so. And I hope that they have to do with education because it's harder than I thought it'd be. But when I went through the Master Trustee training, I had to read a book called What's Your Why? When I read that book, I'm going, this is a dumb book. And I'm not the kind of guy that likes to read those kind of books, but we had to read it and had to report on it and had to be involved in discussions. And in reading that book, I think I found out what my why was. And that was to be involved in education. Not as a teacher, because I couldn't do that. I don't have the patience or the whatever to work with kids that way, but I want to be involved. I want to continue to be involved, Dr. Smith, and I hope you'll find some way to let me do that. It'll be harder being on the outside, but I will continue always to be a cheerleader for this district. I love this district. It's been good to me. It's been good to my daughter. And it's a great district, regardless of what people say. We just have to find a better way to let people know the good things we're doing. There's going to be haters no matter what, but we'll just have to work on them and try to get them to understand the good things we do, because we do good things for kids in this district. I try to post things on my Facebook page, other places, to let people know what we've done and what we'll continue to do. And I know under Dr. Smith we'll continue to do that. And I encourage the board to continue to work with him and his leadership team to make those good things happen. A couple of words of advice to the new board members. And I've said this before, but something my dad taught me a long time ago, that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And I hope that you'll listen and learn before you try to open your mouth and talk. Not that you won't have things to say, but to learn what it is that we're about, because it might not be exactly what you think, and you might not have some of the capabilities and the things that you want to do. You might not have that to be able to do without other board members. The other thing you need to learn to do is count to 4, because it takes 3 people to agree with you to get things done. Sometimes you have to compromise. Sometimes you have to change how you think. But try to always remember it's about kids. It's doing good things for kids. So I guess that's all I've got to say, Dr. Smith. I appreciate the time that I've had, and it's going to be hard to give it up, but hey, you know, it's something I have to do. So.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate working with you on the board, and I appreciate the times that I was an employee and you were serving on the board. So I've had both instances, and I appreciate your hard work and your dedication. Thank you very much.
I've known Tom, well, I'm not going to give years, okay, but for a long time, and I too was working for the district when he was on the board. So I've experienced both sides of the fence. Tom's got a passion for kids, passion for education. I'm glad to hear he still wants to be a part, because he has a lot a lot of experience to add and to help us. And I just want to say, Tom, thank you.
And Tom, we go way back.
Way back.
We both served back in the 1900s. Really? We did. And you've always had a heart for kids, and you have been probably our best cheerleader. I don't know if any football games or basketball games, I mean, choir stuff, band stuff, you've just always been there. Well, I think we were PTA presidents at different schools at the same time, but anyway, way back. And you've always been involved, and I don't see you stepping away, maybe just a little bit. But we expect to see you, continue to see you, and I know you'll do good things. Thank you for your service, Tom.
Hey, Tom, I know when I first got on the board, the very first name they would always shout out is, do you know Tom Kennedy? I go, well, not yet, but I will. And I can honestly say, I believe I know you now. I tried to model a lot of things I saw you do, because I had to watch everyone, but your name definitely came up a lot. And because of what you modeled, I'm able to be where I'm at today. So I really appreciate all you've done. And I'm going to miss you too. And but I feel like we'll be really great friends still. So thank you for what you've done.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Tom, we met a long time ago in business, and working on the board with you these past 2 years has been a great learning experience for me. I feel like our relationship grew closer, and I'm just gonna miss your experience and your friendship. I know we'll still see each other. I won't be on the golf course with you, but we'll still see each other somewhere and do business together still. But thank you for all that you do, because you are like the biggest cheerleader for our students in our district. So, and I have too learned from you. So I'm posting more because I see you posting, and so I've learned. I'm working on it, but yeah,
You're doing
we all
good.
want to be great board members too. So thank you so much for your service and your friendship.
Well, I just want to say that I, too, was a part of working in the district and you serving on the board. And what I remember, I think my biggest memory was the year that we were at Fair Meadows together. And I remember Sherry and your sweet Elizabeth, y'all, when she was a baby and she went through Fair Meadows, and you were board president. I think, or not board president, but PTA president. And I think you had been at Byrd prior to, or were you at Byrd after that? PTA president?
Yeah.
After that. So I just remember working with Nicole and you and all of our parents and the teachers, and just like everybody else, you've always been our biggest cheerleader, regardless if they were in pre-K or, and I remember some of our discussions because of your being such a proponent for the pre-K program and the full day and stuff. And I just want to thank you for that, and I thank you for your friendship. We could go on and on talking about the years, because it's been a while. But thank you.
Thank you. I didn't speak when Joe spoke, and I apologize for that, Joe. I too have enjoyed you being on the board, and you've done a great job the 3 years you've been here. And we've talked on the phone about what you're looking forward to in the future, and I know that it's going to be hard for you to do that, but you'll do a good job just like you did here. And I appreciate too the way you've been while you've been on the board. So I just wanted to say that, because I was remiss in not saying it earlier.
Well, Tom, I appreciate your service, appreciate your passion that you brought to the role of a board member, and I appreciate your support in my transition here to the district. And so very much appreciate it and respect your service. Before we conduct the oath for our two new board members, I have 3 brief presentations that I'd like to present, and then we'll take a picture. I'll take a photo with each of the individuals that I have that I'll be presenting something to tonight. So first, Joe, if you could join me, I'm in front of the dais. So as a token of your service here on So this says an appreciation to Mr. Tom Kennedy, 21 years of service on Duncanville ISD School. Thank you. And this is for our board president. Board president is a very important role. Excellent leadership. All she has to get us all back in line, and so she did that too. You all ready? So she was an outstanding board president, and so I wanted to dedication to Janice Evers Morton, board president 2018. So now at this time, to Ms. Draper, and then we'll swear.
We now call Debette Draper to administer the oath of office to the newly elected trustees.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Smith. I ask at this time if the newly elected trustees would meet me at the podium and face the audience. Good evening. If you would, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. All right. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Board of Trustees. Now you're going to state your place. Place 2 of Duncanville ISD of the state of Texas. And will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Congratulations.
So at this time, the newly elected board members can join us in the vacant seats that are now vacant. And then we're going to go into closed session. I'll pass it over to our current board president, and the board will go through the selection of officers, and then we'll come back out and be in our permanent seats for the 1920 school year. So that's where we are.
Thank you very much. We will now move into closed session. I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We will now take action. Okay. We will now take action for closed session, and we will begin with the reorganization of the board and election of officers. The officers are president, vice president, and secretary. Do I have a nomination for president of the board?
I'd like to nominate Carla Fahey.
Is there a second?
Second.
There has been a motion made and a second to nominate Carla Fahey for president. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. And we will change places.
Oh, yes.
Oh, and here's your new book. Almost took it.
Okay, where did you? Okay. Okay. Is there a nomination for vice president?
Madam President, I nominate Cassandra Phillips.
Second.
Renee has made the motion. Phil has seconded a nomination for Cassandra Price. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, what now? Phillips. Oh, I did it. Cassandra Price Phillips. No, Cassandra Price, never mind, Cassandra.
See what I mean?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Raise your right.
Raise your hand. Oh, God. Okay, thank you, Cassandra. You've been elected. Is there a nomination for board secretary?
I nominate, Madam President, I'd like to nominate Phil McNeely for
I second.
secretary.
Phil McNeely has been nominated by Cassandra, seconded by Janice Savage. All those in favor for Phil McNeely for secretary, please raise your right hand.
That's being the Lone Ranger.
The king up with his 6 little princesses. Okay, now everybody change where you need to be. Secretary, vice president, and then y'all flip coins.
No, we have.
No, we have, tell us where our names are. Okay. Here's your,
No.
okay, welcome. And now, Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. I'm going to call Ms. Kathleen Brown up. Yes, call Ms. Kathleen Brown up. And then, once you make your motion to hire, we're going to introduce.
Not here, student services. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for director of student services?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Now, okay. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for Executive Director, Academic Services?
So moved.
Thank you, Janice and Phil. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay. Thank you. Motion passed 7-0. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for executive principal DHS?
Second.
Thank you, Phil and Renee. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for principal at Hastings Elementary School?
So moved.
Thank you, Cassandra and Renee. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for principal at Smith Elementary School?
So moved.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Second.
Janice. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passed 7-0. And last but not least, do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for Principal Summit Education Center?
So moved.
Second.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Motion passed 7-0. Now, Ms. Kathleen Brown, would you like to introduce our new friends?
Absolutely. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. It brings me great pleasure to to introduce you all to the new members of the Duncanville family. First, our Director of Student Services, Mr. Norbert Whitaker. Mr. Whitaker. For Executive Director of Academic Services, Ms. Tiffany King. Executive Principal, Duncanville High School, Mr. Michael McDonald. Principal, Hastings Elementary School, Ms. Wendy Simpson Tate. Principal, Smith Elementary School, Ms. Kelly Stevens. And last but not least, Principal, Summit Education Center, Ms. Makisha Brown. So we've had an opportunity to visit with all of these individuals standing before you, and they're all ecstatic about joining the Duncanville team, aren't you? Yes. They have lots of family and friends here in the audience that are supporting them, and so we'll ask that they stand at this time. And you all can now shake hands with the board. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome home.
Welcome to the welcome.
We welcome you all to your new home, and welcome home, Mr. McDaniel. Nice to have you back. Mr. McDonald. Okay, old McDonald had a farm. Now you have a high school. Okay. Now it's time for our invocation, and may I ask Ms. Cassandra to lead us?
Please stand. Let us pray. Father, we come to you thankful and grateful Thankful for the opportunity, thankful for that we're here again to see another day. Grateful for the ability to serve our students and our community. Lord, we ask you to walk with our students, walk with our parents, walk with our staff, teachers, senior leadership team, administrators, board, and police department. We ask you, Lord, while our students are preparing for graduation, we pray that they will see the success that they've seen here in Duncanville for the rest of their lives. Lord, we pray for them as they cross that stage, and we ask you to order their steps. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Now I'd like to ask students from Hastings Elementary to lead us in our pledges. Yes, sir.
You may be seated. Wanted to introduce our two students from Hastings who we have here. Hastings has a new principal tonight, so you're getting to meet a couple of new students right away. We have Mr. Andy Bueno. And we have Mr. Isaiah who's here. So gentlemen, would you please step up and shake the board members' hands? We really appreciate you coming out to do our pledges today.
Thank you, Hastings students. We now move to the superintendent's reports.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I have the following reports for the board this evening. The first report is just an update on our employee appreciation luau. We had an excellent time each year. We appreciate our employees, and so we celebrated the 24 Campus Teachers of the Year. So each campus had a representation there for Teacher of the Year. We had 3 Spirit of Champion honorees. It's that special designation that they receive for going over and beyond in terms of their commitment to their campus or their department, wherever they serve in the district. We honored retirees, and we provided service awards to various staff members for their years of commitment in our school district. And then on top of the awards, a luau theme with a luau theme event. It included traditional hula dancers, plenty of delicious food, games, and festive spirit for our dancers. And so we want to thank our school board for being there and representing and participating, showing how much you appreciate our employees, as well as the staff who did an outstanding job of putting on such a great event to show our employees how much we appreciate them. The next item that I had, very important, and so proud of these two individuals. We named our District Teachers of the Year for the 1920 school year. And so the employee appreciation event, it culminated with the announcement of our 2 Teachers of the Year. For elementary, we have Miss Darlene Taylor, and for secondary, we have Lucy Picasso. And so you will be seeing plenty of, a lot of work from these 2 young ladies, these 2 dynamic teachers throughout the 2019 school year. I'll be looking for many, many opportunities for them to take on leadership roles and to help me basically as ambassadors for our district and for the teacher teachers in our district. And so looking forward to spending this upcoming year with them. The next item that I had for you, Board, is just an update on our students who receive their associate's degree as well as their diplomas coming up. So last week, Duncanville High School had 8 students who graduated from Mountain View College with their associate's degree. And so just kind of take a minute and process what that means. I mean, that's a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment, a lot of focus that it took for them to earn both their college, the 2 years of their college associate's degree, while at the same time meeting the requirements to graduate from Duncanville High School on Wednesday. And so this week, they'll get their high school diplomas. These seniors took advantage of the dual credit courses that we provide here in Duncanville. Many of them also attended our summer and winter sessions that we make available to earn a degree and to get a head start on their college careers. And so if you think of, that's 2 years of college that these students already have taken care of before they even graduate from high school. So that's really just a great example of their dedication and commitment. In 2017, we had 2 students who graduated with their associate's degree and diploma. And last year, in 2018, we had 3 students, and then this year it's grown to 8 students. So you see the trend here. And in 2021, our first Duncanville High School Collegiate Academy class will graduate, and then we'll have over 100 students who receive both their associate's degree as well as their diploma when they graduate. So that is an awesome accomplishment. Very proud of these individuals. They are these students are at another banquet tonight. I think it's the baccalaureate banquet, and so they couldn't be here, but certainly wanted to recognize them. The next item, I think this is the last item that I have for you. We had our class of 2019 decision day. It's a day when the students commit to the colleges and universities that they will be attending. Many of the board members were there with me participating in that event. So it included a donation of 5 scholarships in the amount of $1,000 to some graduating seniors. The scholarships were presented by Mr. Jim McDonald, who's a community member. He wanted to give a senior the same opportunities that his daughter had years ago when she graduated from Duncanville High School. And so he is pictured there with the students who are the recipients. We had 19 students that were committed to the military. In this graduation class, so far, it looks like we have about a little over $67 million in scholarships. Right now, it looks like we have about 960 students that will be graduating on Wednesday. And so many of these students were participating in the College Decision Day. And again, it just speaks to the commitment that our students have, that our staff have, and everyone who's contributed to their success. And so, Madam President, that wraps up the superintendent's report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Before we move into our recognition and commendations section, I'd like to recognize 3 special women. For those of you who are not here at the beginning of our meeting at 6 o'clock, we swore in 2 new board members, and I'd like to introduce them now. Miss Jackie Colton, you want to wave? And Miss Janet Vera Cruz. And we recognized our outgoing president, Miss Janice Savage Martin. Who I will be begging to help me in this position, and I'm sure she will offer. She has been already so helpful, and we appreciate Janice's service this last year. And now we're moving into our recommendations and commendations. Ms. Tiara Richard.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. As always, anytime we can come together to really celebrate the employees in the district who are just doing amazing things, we want to take that opportunity to do so. And so tonight, I wanted to first start off by handing it over to Ms. Kathy Sewell. She has our first recognition for the evening.
Thank you, Ms. Richards. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. It gives me great pleasure to announce a partnership that we have started with Texas Tech University and their Principal Fellows Program. And you have a handout that is in front of you that's a quick overview of the program and what it entails. And one of the things that is really monumental about this program is that we were able to apply for a competitive grant through the Texas Education Agency under the support and leadership of Dr. Smith. Appreciate his leadership in helping us design this grant program. And we received $280,000, and we were one of 17 programs that we were approved by the state of Texas to engage in this partnership. So that in and of itself is a great endeavor, and we're very excited to bring this to you tonight and celebrate not only winning the competitive grant for the funding from the Texas Education Agency, but also to honor our principal fellows and our partnership with Texas Tech. So that's a little bit of the background of the program. Our interns will be assigned a principal residency for the next year and a half, and so they'll start actually in about a week. And so they will be working with their principals all summer and throughout the year while gaining their master's in educational leadership, which will be funded by this grant program to build internal pipelines of leaders through teachers in school districts across the state. So at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Fernando Valle, who is with us this evening, to just say a few words and introduce our faculty from Texas Tech that will be supporting our interns, and then we'll introduce our interns and our mentors.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy Sewell. Good evening, everyone. Madam President, Dr. Smith, the Duncanville School Board, and Duncanville community. We're excited to be here. We didn't let the weather slow us down. Got a little bit of action going on across West Texas. We're really excited to be here and be able to partner in this full residency program. It is the experience that a lot of former principals, like our team, we wish we would have had, to be able to learn from the best, be in there every day, and really understand the role of the school leader to make the biggest impact for our community, especially for our children. I'd like to introduce Dr. Kathy Gabriel, who's in the audience, and Dr. Irma Almaguer. Dr. Gabriel will be faculty lead here in Duncanville, and Dr. Almaguer is the co-architect and curriculum leader for the program. We're excited to work with the students and your mentor principals, and we appreciate the support from the community. And thank you for the opportunity, especially for Ms. Sewell, who facilitating the onboarding, the transition. Everything has been smooth, and we look forward to a great, prosperous year. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for the partnership.
Thank you, Dr. Valle. And also, I would like to recognize Dr. Cyprian for helping to assist in this project. He's been helping out with communication and setting up the conditions for our interviews and for our finalists. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our principal interns. We had 19 applications, and through the interview process and the application process, there were 4 internal candidates awarded this honor. Our first candidate, I'd like to introduce Brittany Allen. She is from the Collegiate Academy and will work with mentor principal, Miss Melanie Lewis, at Hardin Intermediate. Our next principal intern is Alish Allen from Byrd Middle School. He will be working with Mr. Brian Byrd at Reed Middle School. We have Byrds in Reed. And so he's here. There he is. We also have Miss Victoria Graham, who will serve as a principal intern. She's currently at Hyman Elementary, and she will work with Miss Tangi Towles at Merrifield Elementary next year. And our final principal intern is Napoleon Leyva. He has been serving as a teacher at Hardin Intermediate, and he will work with principal mentor Miss Tamara Thompson at Brandenburg Intermediate. And at this time, before I release them to celebrate and shake your hands, I'd also like to introduce, or I have, but I would like to recognize our principal mentors who are in the audience with us this evening. If you all will stand and be recognized. We have Mr. Brian Bird, Ms. Tamara Thompson, and Ms. Melanie Lewis. It takes a special leader and a visionary, someone who will spend the time and the leadership to help work with interns and grow leaders, and we're very excited about the selection of those. I want to thank Mr. Nix and Ms. Goodman for their leadership in supporting this program as well. So at this time, if you all would like to celebrate and shake hands with our board members, and then we'll take a quick picture.
Want to get everyone in the photo.
Oh, please.
All right. I know. And up next, we have some more recognitions we'd like to continue with. Thank you so much. So I'd like to call up Miss Pam Wells. Miss Wells, are you here today?
All right.
As Ms. Wells makes her way to the front, I want to point out that this every year there is a bus driver who is celebrated and recognized for going above and beyond and really representing the district well. And so Ms. Wells is actually our bus driver of the year. So everyone, just give a big round for her. So the bus driver of the year is actually selected through the Property CASAP Alliance in Texas, and that's based on multiple driver attributes. It's based on leadership, attitude, perseverance, student and parent relationships, and technical skill. And so the nominations are evaluated each year by this outside group, and they look at those 5 attributes to determine whether or not someone's an exceptional bus driver and basically taking care of students and their coworkers. So we know that each day school bus drivers, we're trusting bus drivers with our most precious cargo, our children. And so the people who take that seriously and really take that on and take that responsibility to heart are the ones who are recognized for this honor. And Ms. Wells, you're absolutely one of those people. We really appreciate all you do, and you'll continue on, and you will actually represent us in the state as the process continues on. So she received this jacket as a part of her recipient, and she's also, again, continuing to just represent the district well. And so Ms. Wells, I wanted to thank you for that. And so we're really, really proud of you, and we'll know you'll go far and just continue to represent the district well. And so congratulations on being named the bus driver of the year. All right, and we'll do a quick photo. And while they're doing the photo, I did want to ask, I know that several people from transportation are here to celebrate and support Ms. Wells. Would the other transportation people, employees, please stand up? Many of them are already standing in the back. Thank you for all you do. And so our last and final recognition for the evening is Mr. Scott Fahey. Coach Scott Fahey, could you join me up front? All right, so for those of you who don't know and who haven't had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Fahey, he is our baseball coach here in the district. And if you know anything about baseball in Duncanville, it has a long history of doing really, really well. And this year was no different. This team this year had a 13-1 district record. They were district champs, had multiple students and student athletes who won district honors. In addition, Mr. Fahey himself, Coach Fahey, actually won the district coach of the year. So, I mean, that's always a big honor when others see that you're doing really great work. Anytime I've talked to Coach Fahey about his athletes and the work they're doing, he always talks about their spirit. He talks about, you know, they have talent, but it's that spirit that really gets them through. And that's something that a good coach can draw out of anyone if given the right circumstances and really can push and motivate students. So I wanted to thank you on behalf of the district for, number one, being Coach of the Year, for pushing these students to really go above and beyond on the field and off the field. And also congratulate you, because this year you also had your 100th win as the coach here in Duncanville. So I wanted to congratulate you on your 100th win this season. And you know, we try to push a lot of information out, and it's one thing you can always tell when someone has long history and longevity in a place, because when we pushed out on the district platforms on social media about Coach Fahey winning his 100th win, boy, that post just went viral. We spent a lot of time getting comments from people who just had so many great things to say about you and all the. So again, thank you for that, and I want to congratulate you again and our baseball team for having such a great season. Thank you, Coach Fahey. All right, we'll get Coach Fahey to also take a picture. And as always, you are welcome to join us for the remainder of the meeting, but we know that some people have to slip out. We want to give you that opportunity if you'd like to. But again, you are welcome to join us to talk about the business of the district.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. It's now time to go into our consent agenda.
Ms. President, I'd like to make a motion that we move items 7D, E, F, G, and H to the consent agenda.
Second.
Board Member Janice Savage Martin moved to have items 7D, E, F, G, and H moved to the consent agenda with a second from Cassandra. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Janice moved and Renee seconded. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. We now move to action agenda item A. technology storage, backup, and service proposal presented by Shalante Cowan.
All right. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. My name again is Shalante Cowan, and I am the Chief Technology Officer here for Duncanville ISD. And I am here today to talk to you all about a consideration that we have for the approval of funding to address the district's need for storage and data backup. And so before we get started, I'd like to just give you all a little bit of an understanding of where we've come from so that you can understand where we're going. And so if you'll look in your first slide, under number 1, you can see Internet Upgrade, Content Filter, and Firewall. So back in February 2018, under the direction of Dr. Smith and under the approval of our board, they so graciously allowed us to be able to approve an internet upgrade for the district for our staff and for our students. At the same time, we also were able to input or install a content filter and a firewall. And so what that's done for our district is allowed for our students to be able to have a protected internet experience so that they're not accessing inappropriate content, as well as protecting our district from viruses and malware. And so all in all, I am so thrilled to say that that project went very well, and so I'm very thankful for that. Moving to number 2, it says Skyward Cloud Migration. That was actually a little bit more recent. That occurred December 2018, so this school year. And so during that time, we were able to migrate our district's finance and student information system to the cloud. And so when you talk about our student system, just so you can understand what that is, our enrollment, our grades, attendance, all of that's on that specific system. And when we talk about the finance side, we're talking about a location where we can have our payroll, requisitions, things of that nature. And so all in all, those 2 databases were migrated to a safer location. And so because of that, we have increased security, 24/7 technical support, data redundancy, so that if our servers were to go down, we have backups for that, all in the cloud, and more. And so once again, we're so thankful that that was approved. And so that's another good thing that we've done here in the district. And then moving on to our number 3, which is our data storage and backup needs. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So just to give you a little bit of context, back in 2014-15, that was an initial installation of our servers and our backup solution at that time. And so typically those kinds of systems, they last about 5 years. So if we look at 2014, we're in 2019, we're about 5 years end of life and out of warranty. And so we want to make sure that we're presenting this to you all so that you can kind of understand where we are. All right? So moving to our next slide, I like to give analogies when I'm dealing with technology. And so many of you have your phones. And so when you think about your phones, we use our phones for emails, texts, calls, sometimes our bills, paying bills, and things of that nature. And so if you look at the messages on that screen, some of you may have seen the message, storage almost full, before. Cannot take a photo. What does that make you feel? A little panic, right? Right underneath there, you see iPhone storage, and that's a place that you can check and inventory how much storage you have on your phone and what exactly is taking up the space. Is it applications or photos or mail and things of that nature? Well, think about that on a much grander scale. Here in the district, we've got 18 campuses we're supporting. And so that's what we're looking at here in the district. On the right-hand side, you see it says SAN. Think of that as your SIM card. So if you were to take out your SIM card, that's the storage that you have on your phone. When we're measuring storage, we measure it in 3 different, not really phases, but components. As you can see, we measure it in IOPS. That means how much work can we do. Throughput, how fast can we do our work, any of the systems that we use. And then latency, is there any lag time before we can use the product? And so all in all, when you hear me talk about these 3 components, that's how we're measuring the storage that we have in our district. And moving along. So in the picture on the left, that is actually a picture of our actual data center. If you've never been, come on by. I'd love to give you a tour. It is located here in our district. And on the right-hand side, you can see that there are 3 black circles. Those black circles are actually our goals for the district. And so we take the goals, and that's based on taking our environment and comparing it with industry standards and metrics. So we look at a school district of our size, and we work with some of our systems and our different vendors that allow us to come up with the different numbers. And so as we do that, and we look on the right-hand side, that's our goal, but if you look in the middle portion, it says IOPS measure of work. If you compare the 5,000 IOPS to 100,000, which is our goal, that shows you that we are very below standard of what we need. If you look at the second section, it says throughput, how fast can we do the work? We're at 6 gigabits per second. Our goal is 25 plus. That means that we are very slow at this point. The last section says goal of less than 1 millisecond. We are at 10 milliseconds, which doesn't seem like it's that much, but in a digital world, it's quite a bit. We're very delayed. And so what does that mean for our district? How does that impact us? It impacts everything. It impacts our software programs, our electronic documents, our email, business records, and more. Okay? So moving on. As we work towards coming up with the solution, we want to make sure we have our objectives. What exactly are we trying to accomplish? And so I have 5 objectives here that we want to look at. One is to make sure that we have storage equipment and a sufficient warranty. Without a warranty, we can't get the assistance that we need, so that's what we're asking for. In addition to that, we want an on-site backup solution. So when you think about that phone one more time, if any of you have ever lost your phone, and you try to buy another one and back it up, if you don't have a backup to the cloud, iTunes cloud, or to your computer, guess what happens? You lose everything. And so when we think about our district, we also have to have a sufficient storage and backup solution. And so that's key for our district. The third one says consistent and scalable storage. We want to make sure that as we grow as a district, we have programs such as choice schools and pre-K. We want to make sure that our storage can accommodate those new programs. And next, we want to improve our system performance. And lastly, we want to have predictable budgeting. We want to make sure that this is not a surprise in the next 5 years. We're planning out ahead of time so that we can purchase what we need. Data collection and analysis. Of course, when we're talking about something of this magnitude, we don't just throw it together. There's a lot of planning that comes into place. And so my staff have been working together. You can see on the bottom left, that's some of my staff members. We've worked with other school districts. We've worked with internally. We've worked with vendors to assist us. We've worked with auditors to audit our environment and give us some insight. And all in all, we've been able to analyze that data and come up with a plan. We also, of course, want to talk about potential risks. What risks are involved if we don't move forward? So looking at possible loss of productivity or legal ramifications we don't want to endure, data loss, system downtime, and more. That's just to name a few. So as we work through and come up with our plan, we have designed a plan that has 3 phases. And phase number 1, if we were to move forward today, we would end phase 1 June 28th, 2019, that's this school year. And we would begin phase 2, which is this 1920 school year, July 1, and start working on setting up and migrating our systems. That would finally end on phase 3, August of 2020. And with any program of this magnitude, we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to implement it, maintain it, and close out the project appropriately. So as we implement, we're ensuring that we have our proper contracts, new hardware and software is installed appropriately, that our staff's trained, we have our warranties and professional service implemented, and that, of course, at the end of the day, are we meeting those objectives that I mentioned earlier, the 5 objectives, and closing that out and reviewing those continually. And so finally, I want to propose to you our financial plan. Again, this is a 5-year plan for both backup and storage, and that would be done in 5 years. So if you will look at the top in the black portion that mimics to the design phases that I spoke with you about earlier. And so we're looking at a budget of about $1.2 million, but not all at once. So year one would be looking at $330,000. That's already allocated in the current technology budget. Year two, we would be looking at that $330,000 that's already in the budget, but be asking for an additional $187,000 to meet the $517,500 for the year two. And then year three, I would already have the $330,000 that's normally allocated, so it would be less of a cost for the remaining consecutive years of $117,500. And so you might have in your packet, you'll see that an RFP, or a request for proposal, went out back in March. And so my recommendation is we move forward with that request for proposal for the indicated vendors. So that's all that I have at this time. I'd love to entertain any questions that the board may have. Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate
Always
that.
do. You explain it in a logical, easy way to follow. Thank you.
Good,
Yes,
good.
I agree.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate you all.
Any more questions, board members? Thank you, Ms. Cowan. Do I have a motion to consider approval of the technology storage backup and service proposal?
Second?
Bill moved. And Janice seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passed 7-0. We now move to action, agenda item B, athletic fields at Duncanville High School contract amendment, presented by Melissa Cates. Melissa?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Smith. My name is Melissa Cates, and I am the Chief of Staff here in Duncanville ISD. We have before you an agenda item for additional items at Duncanville High School athletic facilities. As a reminder, back in February, the board approved a contract with Hellas Construction to change out the turf at Panther Stadium, add turf to the baseball and softball fields, and then put turf on the 2 practice fields. On April 15th, we brought a couple of amendments to this Hellas contract where the board approved goalpost, new chairback seating, track striping, fencing, painting, press box signage, outside visitors painting, and multi-purpose fencing around the 2 practice fields. Well, tonight we have before you a couple additional items that have been requested for the baseball and softball fields. But before I get to that, in the April meeting, there was a request by the board to bring back options for additional seat-back seating at Panther Stadium. We've been working on that, but we have had out 3 separate vendors, and at this time, there's a lot of construction going on around the DFW and this area and the state, and they would not be able to manufacture those seats in time for the football season in September. So we're still working through some options, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get any of the seating installed in time for this football season, so we will bring that back to you at a later date. However, before you, we have a couple of additional items, including a covered batting cage for baseball, a covered batting cage for softball, and then an extended area on the softball field that needs turf. When they originally did the plans, there was a little bit of an area that needed to be finished out, and it was just a real small area that the softball coach has requested. So I have several different motions, and this one's done a little bit differently than we've done in the past. And the way we have laid this out for you is you have 3 separate options for the batting cages. Staff is recommending the covered batting cage with the roof and the lighting for the baseball and the softball. So we'll take those as separate items if the board would like to do it that way. And then also, in addition, with us redoing the signage for the softball field, it's been requested that the board consider naming that field after Mike Kreitzberg. Mr. Kreitzberg has been part of this district for 42 years. He was a coach and a teacher in the district. He was principal at Duncanville High School, and he just retired as an assistant administrator in the district. And so in order for the board to name an existing facility in the district after a person, all we need is a motion by one board member, and we can have it seconded, to have staff bring to the board as an agenda item next board meeting the possibility of naming the softball field after Mr. Kreitzberg. So I know that's a lot, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but they will be made as 3 separate motions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
We're gonna replace the seats, old, and they've been up there for 35 years.
That,
We're not gonna be able to do that by next football season?
that is right. When we had the manufacturers come out, even just for that portion that y'all have already approved, they take, I believe, 90 days just to manufacture them. And so by the time we get them manufactured and put in,
What date do they give us that?
I'm sorry, Andre Fields could probably answer that better than I can, if you'd like to.
We're gonna go ahead and order what we've approved, right?
Yes, we are.
I realize they can't get them to us, but we're gonna put it in, they're gonna send it to us for Christmas? Or we're gonna have a Happy New Year or what?
Well, okay, yes, and Andre Fields can answer that.
Good evening, Board. Just to answer the question, Mr. McNeely, one of the things that we're working with Hellas, as we've been working with them, most manufacturers and the top 2 or 3 manufacturers that do this type of seating are now telling us anywhere from almost 22 months. And that, yes. And so we're, the last vendor, they're going to be able to do it before then. There's a lot of construction, a lot of buildings. People are doing a lot of stadiums and et cetera. So we're working to try to find the one who can get them to us the fastest.
Make sure we get one from Goodwin.
I'm sorry.
If we have to wait 22 months, make sure we get some good ones.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Exactly. The last.
We don't want wooden recliners or anything like that.
No, sir. We were really working, and our last vendor who came was the one who did the seating in Sandra Meadows, and that was the last one. And they can get them to us a little sooner than the other 2 vendors that do this type of work. So we're on it. We're just trying to get. Yes, sir. We will.
Could I just, I'm still confused.
Now, you got me really confused. We're gonna,
I just,
you need a separate motion for, Mike's deal.
And, yes, and actually,
Let's take care of the athletic stuff before we do that.
okay,
Renee?
No, I was just going to make a comment. And then I'll make the motion too. But what I wanted to say was just point of reference that the football stadium that we've talked about, I know we're not voting on that, but really that was built in the middle 80s, those of us that were still here. And what I want the public to know, there has been very little bringing it up to standards and stuff. I think we had, through the bond, we had just recently had the bathrooms updated and stuff. So I just, point of reference, we just haven't done a lot.
Saw plenty of pictures of that.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to consider the contract amendments for athletic fields at Duncanville High School as follows? For baseball, the approval of covered batting cage.
So moved.
That's the staff recommendation, right?
Yes. So moved.
Renee?
Second.
Renee moved and Phil McNeely seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Thank you. Motion passed 7-0. Second motion. Do I have a motion to consider the contract amendments for the approval of a covered batting cage and the softball bullpen extension?
So moved.
Renee?
Second.
Janice? Renee moved and Janice seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Do I have a motion to request an agenda item be placed on next month's board meeting to name the DHS softball field after Mike Kreitzberg?
Second.
Bill McNeely moved and Janice Savage Martin seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion?
Was the softball bullpen extension a staff recommendation?
Yes, correct.
Have we made that motion? Did I miss it?
Yes, that was included in the softball
Okay,
with the
thank
batting cages,
you.
yes.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passed 7-0. We now move to action item C, video board for Sandra Meadows Arena, presented by Melissa Cates.
Thank you again, Madam President. We have a motion before you for a video board for Sandra Meadows Arena. And what this will do is install a LED video screen inside the arena, and it's an opportunity for Duncanville not only to have a revenue stream, but to play live streaming of the video, replays. It's an opportunity for us to have district information. So for our TRE, for instance, in the fall, we could have used that to have some of our advertisement. And then also, as I said, a way for us to sell ads as a revenue stream. In addition, it's a good opportunity for our students to create content to place on the screens, but they also will learn how to operate it. So you have a proposal for a new video screen from Daktronics, and Daktronics is part of Byboard, which is a cooperative. And so I forgot what the word was. The motion that we're asking for you to make is for the purchase of the video board and then also the installation. That will all be done by Daktronics. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Cates. Do I have a motion to oh, I'm sorry. Jackie.
Was this an item identified on the fund list? I mean, was it identified as a line item?
For the bond? No, ma'am. This is a new item.
Any more questions? Do I have a motion to consider approval of the video board for Sandra Meadows Arena?
So moved.
Janice?
Second.
Was that Janet? Janice moved and Janet seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 7-0. Okay, now we go to our information discussion agenda items, and it will be the first reading of board operating procedures for 2019-2020. Presenter, Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Board members, as you know, each year, as we end one year, start a new year, it's an opportunity for you as a board to collectively take a look at the board operating procedures. And so those procedures are in your board book. What the plan is to give you an opportunity to review that information, have discussions about that information, and then whatever adjustments or additions or subtractions that you would like for me to make, then we'll make those. We'll put it back on the board agenda with the feedback collectively from the board, and then we'll adopt the new procedures to start the 19-20 school year. So that's what you have before you.
Any questions? So the vote would take place at the next.
Yes, giving you an opportunity to read, process, review, discuss, make additions, talk about it, give me that feedback, and then we'll put it on the board agenda for next month.
Any questions? Okay, now we move to discussion item B with Templeton Demographics, with the report presented by, Dr. Mark Smith and Templeton.
My name is Bob Templeton with Templeton Demographics.
Thank you for being here.
Madam President, board members, it is my pleasure to be with you tonight. Our firm works with the majority of the school districts in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We work to assist school districts with understanding the demographic changes that are taking place within their school districts. Tonight, I will briefly touch on the overall economic indicators that we're seeing in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'll spend a good bit of time talking about the housing market and then some of the other factors related to mobility that are impacting school districts, and then I'll conclude with the enrollment projections. Well, we're very fortunate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We continue to be one of the strongest cities in the country for job growth. Depending upon which month you look at the data, we are either second or third in the nation for job growth. Our job growth rate is right at 2.6%, which is more than double the national job growth rate. I do anticipate we'll likely see another couple of years of very strong DFW job growth. We're starting to hear some little bit of unsettling in the national economy, but remember, Texas always lags behind what happens within the nation. So we've got, I think, another 2 to 3 years before we see any kind of ripple effect that might happen with the national economy before it will find its way into Texas. The Dallas-Fort Worth economy is largely driven by professional services related to job growth around the north part of the Metroplex, but we're also a logistics and Metroport, warehousing, distribution centers. You know, we're being our location in the center of the country, we do see a lot of warehouse freight movement, and so logistics is also a big part of our job growth, as is medicine, retail. There's a very diverse part to the DFW economy. The unemployment rates are rather low. The Texas rate is at 2.9, the national rate's at 4.1, the DFW MSA is at 3.6, and the city of Duncanville is right at 4.5. These low unemployment rates can present some challenges for the school district in terms of hiring bus drivers, substitute teachers, food service, janitorial, all those service industry type jobs can be hard to fill when we see these unemployment rates this low. The housing market across the DFW area is continuing to expand, and we are seeing new construction in the Duncanville School District. We're also seeing a lifting in home values. So home values as a whole are lifting as it relates to this being a very hot housing market. We look at home sales for existing homes. This graph is illustrating what we've seen in Duncanville ISD starting back in 2010. The blue portion of that graph represents new home sales. The orange portion represents existing home sales. The green is for foreclosures, and the orange or yellow is for bank-owned, real estate-owned sales. And what you'll notice back in 2010, almost 50% of our home sales were either foreclosure or bank-owned distressed property sales. But as a result of the very hot housing market, those have almost gone away. So it's a very healthy housing market. We're seeing a very low amount of foreclosures and bank-owned sales. And there's always a few of those that relate to either health issues or job loss, but we've seen a very healthy housing market across Duncanville ISD. This is a map that looks at home sales, existing home sales. You can see those darkest blue areas are areas in the school district where we're seeing the most existing home sales. The Hyman Elementary Zone has the most existing home sales, followed by the Alexander with 183, and then we've got Bill Hart's at 123. Those darkest blue areas are selling more than 30 homes per year, and then the light blue are selling between 21 and 30. So this just gives you an indication of where your existing homes are turning over and reselling. Now, some of this over time could lead to some student growth, as we will see some mobility where families are starting to move back into some of those older neighborhoods, because those are some of your more affordable housing. So the existing home is becoming more affordable because the new home prices are getting so expensive that families are starting to look back to existing homes for their purchases. And this is just breaking down. It's a 5-year comparison at the elementary level, showing you where we've seen the differences in home sales. You'll notice that Hyman had the greatest increase of home sales back in 2012-13 year, 156 home sales, and in the 2017-18 year, 234 home sales. Now, this is looking at the average price of a new home and the average price of an existing home for sale in Duncanville ISD. Now, we've seen these surges in the values all across Texas. So this is kind of a newer trend for Texas, where we're seeing these home values climbing at such a strong rate. Part of it is due to the cost of materials increasing, the cost of land. Also, it has to do with who's moving into Texas. We're seeing a lot of folks that are moving from California, where the home values are already so much higher, so they're coming to Texas, and many times they're paying cash or full price for these homes. Also, the same kind of effect coming from the Northeast, where folks that are moving to this area are coming from areas that have a much higher home price than what we had here in Texas. So we've seen a significant increase in those home values. Average new home price in 2010 was $171,000, and in 2018, these are Duncanville ISD numbers, the average price for a new home is $313,000. It is very hard for builders now to build a new home in the DFW area for less than $250,000, which that just blows my mind. Because I'm thinking, a few years ago when we bought our house in the Keller School District, we bought it for $205,000, and I remember at that time thinking that was such a stretch for us. And now, those homes are non-existent. Now, the existing home values, these are average existing home sale price, so it's not your average value of your home. So the existing home sale price in 2010 was $124,000, and it's gone up also at a very healthy rate at $211,000. I do anticipate that you're likely going to see another 2 to 3 years of your appraised property values being at this rate that you experienced this past year. So you're likely going to continue to see growth in your property values, because overall existing homes and new home values are continuing to escalate in value. Now, we track the new homes that are being built in Duncanville ISD. You don't have a lot of land, but we are seeing some activity. There is some development that is taking place, so we are seeing some bulldozers, earth-moving equipment that are preparing for additional lots to come your way. But we track it every quarter. So every quarter, our employees are physically driving. They're counting how many homes are being started. They're looking for those bulldozers to see when they're going to start the development process, so we can get an understanding of the new homes that are going to be coming to your school district. You can see in 2017, you started 149 new homes, and in 2017, you closed 135 homes. So we check both starts and closings so that we can check to make sure that the builders are not building too much speculative inventory, which is what we saw back in 2005. So in 2005, we had builders who built way too much inventory, which participated in that crash. The crash in 2005 was a combination of builders building too many homes and lending too easily to individuals, and so it was a combination problem. Today's market is not like that. The lenders are very strict on the mortgage requirements. So they do look at income to debt. They do look at your employment. They do look at making sure you have enough money for the down payment. So this is a very different housing market than what it was, 15 years ago. Now, looking at the new housing by elementary zone, right now, Bill Hart's Elementary is building your most new homes. They're building about 30 to 40 homes per year. The Alexander area is building about 15 or so homes per year. And Hyman has 251 future lots, and Alexander has 576 future lots. VDL stands for vacant developed lots. Those are lots that are on the ground, ready for builders to build today. The future lots are concept plans or preliminarily platted areas. So it is information that we have from either the city or from developers with their intent to build homes. It's a pretty good indication of what's coming to your school district. We've got 114 vacant developed lots ready for builders. We have 1,139 futures. Those futures will be coming to your school district over the next 4 to 7 years. So it can take up to a year to year and a half for the developers to deliver the lots. So once we see the bulldozers on site, then it could be within a year that you would see the lots. Now it is taking builders a little longer to build houses. So because of the shortage of labor, the subcontractors, it's taking them anywhere from 4 to 6 months to build homes versus in the previous building boom, they could build those homes in 3 to 5 months. But it's primarily a labor factor that's causing the length to increase on building homes. Now here's a map just to give you a different perspective of where the housing is taking place. That large green area up in the north part of the Villa Park, they've got about 77 vacant developed lots, about 164 futures. Large yellow area down area, that is the homestead. There's also just north there the Daniel Farms, and so there is earth equipment on site. They are starting to develop that property. And so we will see an increase in housing and families in your school district within the next 1.5 to 2 years. As I mentioned earlier, we've got about 114 vacant developed lots and nearly 1,400 future homes. Some of the highlights, I touched on this. Capella Park is 391 total lots. There is about 143 homes that are occupied. There were 10 homes under construction when we did the survey. They're building about 30 homes per year, and that price range is starting at $230 but goes up to $450. And I'm sure we're not seeing many of those $230 homes now. They're mostly going to be near that $300,000 price range. We've got the homestead at Daniel Farms. It's a sizable tract. It's 379 future lots. The groundwork is currently underway on all the lots. So there's 2 phases, but they are in the process of delivering 103 lots, and then phase 2 will have 276 lots. Pre-sales are estimated to be starting in May, so right now they are pre-selling those homes. First homes should be starting this fall. So fall of 2019 is when they'll start the construction. So in the spring part of the next school year, you could see families and kids moving into your school, into the district by this time next year. Now here's an apartment complex, Clark Ridge Canyon Apartments, 248 multifamily units. The construction is currently underway. First units leasing this summer in June. It is a market rate apartment complex, which means it'll have a higher rent rate. It's not a subsidized apartment complex, so therefore it'll have a lower yield of students per unit. The highest yielding apartments that we see across all of our clients are the tax credited or subsidized apartment complexes. This being a market rate one, don't expect it to have a high number of students in the short term. Now, I want to touch next on one of the other biggest factors that we're seeing across our clients. This is across the state of Texas. It's not just a Duncanville issue. It's the impact of charters. And so I've got a couple of slides on the charter impact. Charters have really expanded across the major metroplexes. We are tracking charters as closely as we can. It's very difficult. TEA does not help us in this regard. When we get notices of future charters, all they give us is the area, and many times that area would represent 20 to 30 school districts, and so that's not enough information. And many times when we do an information request from the charter, they do not comply, and they do not let us know where the charters that they're already advertising. Many times they're already advertising, accepting enrollments, and then when we go to find out where the location is, they don't disclose it, and it's not even available. And so I got a few slides to talk about some of the charters. This first one here is the Uplift Grand Academy expansion. It's physically located in Grand Prairie ISD, but we have identified that there have about 254 students that actually reside in Duncanville ISD. So the charter reach is pretty big. And there are several that are located within your school district, and we have the data on those as well. But this Uplift Grand Academy is expanding, so they are building a high school site just across the street. So we are anticipating that it could provide another pool of students, not only from Grand Prairie ISD, but it could also impact Duncanville as well. Those are the numbers, the total enrollment numbers for that Uplift Academy. So when it opened in 2014, grades K2 and 6th, 7th, it had 282. This past October, going pre-K through 12th grades, it had 1,276 students. Harmony School of Innovation, it's also a new academy, a charter that opened in Grand Prairie ISD this past fall. It opened with pre-K through 6th grades. This past October, it had 457 students, and they will be adding a grade per year, and so it will go up to K-12 when it's fully established in a few years. The International Leadership of Texas, physically located in Lancaster area, opened fall of 2018, offering 9th grade and adding a grade per year. It currently has only 44 students, but it's being fed by 2 other IL campuses that are K-8. So the international leadership pattern is to build 2 K-8 campuses that feed 1 high school. And so this location is in the Lancaster School District, but it is pulling a few kids from Duncanville ISD as well. Now here's a look at your transfer patterns. This is 2 tables of information. The top table is looking at your students that reside outside the district that are transferring into Duncanville ISD. Many of these are likely employees' children, but what you'll notice back in the 2013-14 year, you were transferring in about 199 students, and in 2018, you're transferring in about 448 students. That's actually a typo. That 5-year change should be 249 students. So you have seen an increase in your transfers into the district by about 249 students. Now that bottom graph is representing students that actually live in Duncanville ISD that are either transferring out to other school districts or they are attending charter schools, some of those in your district and some of those outside the district. But this represents students that are not attending Duncanville ISD, that are attending either charters or other public schools. That transfer out pattern is 1,984 in 2013, and in 2018, this past October, transferring out 3,300 students. Now, this list does not represent all of the campuses, because that list would have been too big to fit on this screen, but those are the largest campuses or charters or school districts that are receiving your Duncanville students. You'll notice that pattern has changed or increased by about 1,316 students. That big year was the 2015-16 year. That year it jumped up by about 400 students, and it drives me crazy. I'm a public school fanatic. Both my parents were teachers, principals, and superintendents. And my whole life I have been around public schools, and this drives me crazy because it's not right and it's not fair. They get to play by different rules. I was watching ESPN, and there was an advertisement by a charter school on national TV advertising charter schools in Texas. Now, if a public school district were to do that, there would be outcry. But yet charters are allowed to do that. They're allowed to spend our taxpayer dollars indirectly on this way of advertising and marketing. So it is a different world. It's a new world in education, and this is a time for school districts to have to kind of, I hate to say it, get a little ticked off. And we've got to start marketing, and we've got to start really communicating and informing parents and informing people about public education. My daughter's a teacher. She's a first-year teacher. And so we're so proud of her and what she's doing. And I was excited to see the work that you're doing. I literally get to attend about 40 to 50 school board meetings a year. And I still get goosebumps when I see new teachers and new principals, and it's exciting. But the charter schools don't do this. They are not some of these charters are purely in it for profit. And that's what ticks me off. I'm sorry for my sidebar and my getting off track here. But what I want to point out is, you've seen a change. In 2015, that increase jumped up significantly in 2015. It jumped up again in 2016, and it jumped up again in 2018. And so the impact is very pronounced. And we track the data so closely. We look at newcomers and leavers. So we look at this year's geocoded students, and we compare it to last year's. And a newcomer is a student that has a brand-new student ID that was not in your school district last year. And we don't count kindergartners because typically they're all newcomers. So we don't look at kindergarten. We only look at 1st through 12th graders. And we look at the newcomers. The opposite of that is the leavers. The leavers are, another term I need to think for leavers. They're the students that are not here this year that were here last year. And we don't count the 12th graders as leavers because they all mostly go on. But there are some subtle little patterns here that are revealing itself. You'll notice on the newcomers, the two largest grades for newcomers are 6th grade and 9th grade. What's causing that? That's the charter returns. So the charter returns are coming back to your school district in 6th grade and in 9th grade. And that makes total sense because you have strong secondary programs. It's the desire to participate in band and in sports and in drama and in all of your extracurricular activities that the charters cannot compete with you in that area. So we have built in this charter return in our future forecast because we do see this in virtually all the districts that we work with. Parents, in my opinion, from what I can tell so far, are using charters out of convenience. Some are using it out of convenience, either because of the location or the grade configuration. The International Leadership's grade configuration is K-8. So if I've got 3 kids that are in that K-8 span, I get to drop them off at one campus. I don't have to deal with the logistics of getting them to 3 different campuses. So some are using the charters because of convenience. Some are using it because of maybe they've had a bad experience. I'm not saying that's the case, but it typically revolves around one of 3 things: convenience, experience, or this perceived thought that it's like a private school special program. But that's what's going on that I think is causing this situation in your Duncanville School District. Now, what this is having an effect on, this is another one of those subtle little changes that we're seeing that is also very profound. We looked at the birth rate data, and we looked back, going back to 2006. So you'll notice that center column district births, the 2006 district birth, number of births within your district was 1,074. We compared it to the kindergarten class 5 years later. That was 2011 kindergarten class of 892. That gives us a ratio of births to kindergarten. And when we measure that all the way going forward, you'll notice that it was pretty consistent up until about 2014. And in 2014, that ratio went from average to about 0.75 of births to kindergarten. And then in 2015, which was the year that that charter number jumped, the ratio went down to 0.676. And this past year, the ratio dropped to 0.637. Now that is huge. That kindergarten is where the battle is taking place. The battle is taking place at kindergarten, and if they can get them, or if you can get them at kindergarten, then you have a higher likelihood of keeping them. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to get your kindergarten kids. And so what that does to the forecast, when we look going back to 2014, we had 807 kids in kindergarten compared to about 905 12th graders. So there was a difference of almost 100 kids between your 12th grade class and your kindergarten class. But because that kindergarten share is getting so much smaller, now there's a difference of 417. Your 12th grade class is 417 bigger than your kindergarten class. Just by rolling up the kids, if we keep that kindergarten share the same and we keep those smaller kindergarten classes, your enrollment is automatically going to decline by 200 to 300 students just because of that large exiting 12th grade class versus a smaller kindergarten class. So when we looked at the forecast going forward, we are forecasting that in 5 years, your enrollment would be 12,539, and in 10 years, your enrollment would be 12,397. We presented a very similar report to Grand Prairie ISD a few years ago. That's really what put them on their path of aggressively marketing and aggressively changing their programs. And now they're transferring out 3,000 kids that are transferring out to charters, just like you. They got 3,000 kids that are going out to charters, but they also have 3,000 kids that are transferring in. It truly was a survival mentality. Their biggest districts that they're pulling them from are Arlington, Mansfield. Those two are losing the largest share. Part of it is proximity of where their campuses are near their border, but that's what prompted them to go on their aggressive plan for marketing. Now, I want to point out on this page that 4th grade class. That 4th grade class of 925 students, that was that kindergarten class back in 2014. So that 807 kids in 2014 has turned into 925 4th graders. Now, so they're going to be leaving and going to your intermediate campuses next year. So next year's elementary numbers are going to drop just because we are losing such a large 4th grade class. Now, at the intermediate level, look at that 6th grade class. That 6th grade class is big. It's 983. So the intermediate numbers really aren't going to change much next year because they're graduating or advancing a large 6th grade class, and they've almost got that same amount coming in, but in another 2 years, that intermediate number is going to really drop. And the same thing's going to happen in about 4 years at your middle school. In 4 years, your middle school numbers are going to drop because those larger grades are advancing through. Now, this has an impact on your high school because in your high school, it's still going to be getting some larger class sizes. So it's going to be several years before your high school actually feels an enrollment drop from the smaller kindergarten classes that are coming into your system right now. Now, there again, I do think you can have an impact on this. I think by the creative marketing, creating choice, really getting creative and just, sending out information to those parents, sending out, when a home sells, sending out something to them so that they know and make it, really easy for them to find school information so they can get to the right locations. Here's what it looks like at the elementary campus level. Now, keep in mind the Alexander Elementary number, that's where that new development is coming. But right now, Alexander Elementary has about 55 in kindergarten, and they have 93 students in the 4th grade class. So they've got 90 kids in 3rd grade class. So those younger grades are so much smaller than the older grades. That's why you're not seeing the effects of that subdivision growth, is because we've bought some time because of those large exiting classes. Now, we're going to be very interested in that kindergarten. The kindergarten number is the most important number for me when I get your enrollment data next fall. That's the first number I look at. And that's the real telltale sign as to if we're starting to see a reverse or a change in your patterns. Now, we will be watching that elementary zone very closely because that does represent a sizable number of students that could be coming from that new housing. Now, the other thing with the housing is the price. So we'll be looking to see if that price of those new homes is up over $3,000, then it automatically then is going to create less elementary student burden and a higher burden at your middle school and your high school. The more expensive the home, the older the family that's likely going to buy those houses. Here's what it looks like at your secondary campuses. Now, keep in mind, I mentioned that you can see when that bubble works through. And at your intermediate schools, it's the 2021 year when those large classes have worked their way through. And in the middle school years, it's in 2023. You'll notice at your intermediate campuses, your largest intermediate is Daniel Intermediate. It gets to about 575 students by 2024. Your largest middle school is Kennemer Middle School. It gets to about 940 next year, and then could be in that 940 range for the next 2 to 3 years. At your high school, Duncanville High School could get to almost 4,600 students by 2023. So even though you've got this slowdown of growth and your enrollment is declining, that high school surge is still a few years away before it reaches its maximum number. And quite honestly, I have the most confidence in the high school number because I have so many years of grades that I can see how it works its way up into the high school. The most challenging number for me to forecast is the kindergarten number. I'll summarize, then be ready to answer any questions. The unemployment rates in the DFW area remain below 3.5%, outperforming the nation. I do believe we're going to have another 2 to 3 years of very consistent job growth. Duncanville ISD has more than 110 available lots to build on, plus there's about 1,130 future lots. So roughly, that could translate into 400 to 500 students over time. The problem is we've got those large classes leaving that are offsetting the amount of growth that we're seeing. New home prices in Duncanville ISD have gone up by almost 70% in the last 5 years. We are projecting the fall of 2023's enrollment, 5-year enrollment, to be at about 12,539, and in 10 years, Duncanville ISD's enrollment could be at about 12,397 students. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
Has the STAR testing been factored into any of this?
No, we really don't factor in the STAR testing. Our biggest factors are now trying to anticipate the charter's effect and then the housing market, or what's the economy. And we look at the birth rate data to see when we can see that surge. The other thing that I haven't touched on, I don't want to get too distracted on this, the birth rates have slowed because millennials are not having children like the Gen Xers in the previous generations. I have two. I've got a 28-year-old and a 26-year-old. 0 grandkids. And my wife is ready, and she's doing her best to not encourage them too hard. And I think it's going to be another 3 to 5 years. No interest in having children right now. They're all working, they enjoy their hobbies, and one of them has a dog, and dogs, we have grandkids, you could say. But no, it's a different era in terms of the birth rates that is affecting the kindergarten enrollment. Now, some of these stats are really good. Teenage pregnancies are at all-time lows. And so those are some good things. But the challenge is it does push back when we're likely going to see that surge back of kindergarten enrollment. In Texas, we saw 2 years in a row where the kindergarten enrollment across the state of Texas went negative. And that had never happened where we saw, and we're the fastest growing state in the country, and our kindergarten numbers went down.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any more questions? Jackie?
I have a question regarding the TA transfer report. The 5-year change.
Yes.
You indicated that the number was different.
Well, the 5-year change, that 285, when I calculated that, I was double checking it when I sat here, and I show that 5-year change to be different. Now, I don't know that you have a different copy than I have, but
I guess my question is that change cumulative?
it's just literally subtracting the 2018 number from the 2013 number. That's what it should be.
And then on the transfer out to the charter schools,
Yes.
do we know what districts or what school boundaries or whatever the students transferred out, transferred from?
They transferred out from Duncanville ISD.
No, I mean within Duncanville ISD, which school?
No, we don't. Now, some of these may not have ever been in Duncanville ISD, or they may not have ever attended Duncanville ISD. Some of these could have been homeschoolers, or they could have, but they registered their address as a Duncanville ISD address. Great question.
Any more questions for Mr. Templeton?
If you think of a question, just send it through. Dr. Smith would be happy to respond as you think of things when you kind of absorb the information. We're very passionate about what we do. We love supporting your school district, and we're constantly trying to find ways to get better charter information. And let me know if you have any other questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Templeton. Oh, I'm sorry, Jackie.
Was Village Tech considered?
Is what?
Village Tech?
Village Tech, yes. Like I said, the list is so long that we only put the largest campuses or charters that are in your school district or affecting your school district. This list, the full list, can be downloaded from TEA. So the TEA website will list every campus and every charter that has students that are residing or have an address in Duncanville ISD.
Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Templeton.
You're welcome.
Good luck with those grandchildren.
Thank you.
Now we move in with our budget update. Dr. Bigby and Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. So, board members, just to kind of set things as Dr. Bigby works his way up, we always do the demographer's report right at budget time because it is so closely tied to the budget. So we thank you, Mr. Templeton, for doing that for us, and we use that information as part of the budget process. So last month, you may recall, we gave you very specific details of both House bills. We walked through each detail. Tonight, we're not prepared. We are prepared, but we didn't plan on presenting the details of each one of the bills. However, we are prepared to answer any questions or to provide that information for you again. The main reason we haven't done so is that there hasn't been much change really at all to report since last month. And so I want to kind of frame that for you. I want you to think about the fact we have 7 days remaining in this legislative session. So May 27th, 7 days away. So last Friday, we were waiting right at the end of the day to get the most recent update from the legislature, which is why you didn't get your board document. So that document is in front of you now for each one of you to follow along. But I wanted to make sure today that what we presented to you was the latest information from the legislature. And so we do have that, and that's what you're going to hear momentarily. Last Friday, there was a conference committee that was held. And basically, at that time, there was an update from the Texas Education Agency on policy and on the cost differences between the House and the Senate bill. So the Senate Education Committee basically last Friday got an update, policy update and cost differences on the bill. That's important because obviously they only have just a few days to make a decision and decide what they're going to do. So we're watching that very carefully. So the rest of this week, The Education Finance Committee, they'll be meeting, they are meeting, and they are hoping to have a compromise this week. And so the major negotiating points that are taking place this week that will impact Duncanville ISD, but all schools across the state, is one, teacher raises. They're going to be discussing and hopefully reaching a compromise on the amount of money to allocate for teacher raises. The second major thing that they are discussing over this week are the property values and whether or not to use the current year's property values to calculate our school funding or to use prior year property values to calculate our school funding. That calculating piece is huge. Dr. Bigby's going to mention that to you, what that means when he goes through the report here in just a minute. And then, of course, I took feedback from you all at our last meeting, and what we're going to be presenting to you does include the feedback that you gave me in terms of prioritizing teacher raises. I've included that. It's a part of the budget. We'll be explaining it here in the upcoming slides. The administrative support for Duncanville High School, I've included that, your feedback there, and so it's in the slides, and we'll be presenting the impact there. The support for counselors, the whole social emotional learning, the behavior piece, the restorative practice piece, I've included that feedback from in the budget, and so you'll be hearing that. And then the ROTC and the AVID, I'm really still studying that at this point. I'm not as confident that those two pieces will be able to make it in this budget with the other pieces that we'll be adding. So we'll be highlighting all of that. Dr. Bigby is going to take us through a certain portion, and Kathleen Brown is going to take us to a certain portion, and then I'll wrap it up. And again, hopefully, we'll know what the final bill is going to be on the 27th. If not, I shared with you at the last meeting, we'll still have to pass our budget, but we'll be making amendments whenever the state decides what that final bill is going to be. I want to turn it over to Dr. Bigby to go through the presentation for us.
Good evening. New ones, I am Ed Bigby. I'm what used to be the interim chief financial officer. My 3-month job, I'm like Gilligan. He had a 3-hour tour that turned into landing on an island somewhere. So, and I've enjoyed being on the island with you guys. We'll go through these much quicker than we did last time. As Dr. Smith said, we were pretty well in depth last time, but please stop me anywhere along the way. I'm certainly try to answer your questions. There were 2 bills. Both of them have the House Bill 3 name on them now because the Senate bill gutted the House Bill 3, put their bill in it, but it became a committee substitute, House Bill 3. So it's the Senate's bill, the initial one, which put $6 billion into education, $2.3 billion of that was property tax. Their librarian raise across the board. Take the money that we would gain from that bill. Bill 3 has $9 billion for education. Limited designations, therefore we're not. There is that side of the bill, and there's a stipulation that 25% of the new money, at least 20%, has to be spent on $7.8 million. That way there's money to certainly, as Dr. Smith mentioned this, formulas, probably cap, depression, and all you want to read about those, but one of the bills carries with it some type of depression. One has a cap of 2.5%, the other one just compresses what your tax rate is. Lower the tax rate. Districts, cities, actually try to balance. Remember when we passed the TRE last year, or you guys? We initially started off with $100 million and change of state funding and taxes when the TRE passed. And remember, $3 million of that is going to have to be used. Well, now no longer, but it's a substantial increase in the district. Initially, talked to the public about course programs. We didn't get together with him, but he certainly mentioned that as a way to bring students back to the district. Security's on everyone's mind, buses and technology, and we've already begun to spend quite a bit of that money in those areas. Some of the exact money, the programs, the startup was $106,000, $240,000 has been spent on technology for those two, or three actually, the two new ones, and then the STEAM Academy. Almost $1.8 million worth of buses. It cost us $102,000 for the election, so that was 2.2. We also had, if you remember, we talked about this list of $12 million worth of brought to us for last year, and we've covered about of those. So that's $4.3 million that we've knocked off of needs, partly with the TRE, partly with a little salary history in the district. In 2015-16, there was a 3% raise, and talk about raises is typically of the midpoint of that range. It's not their exact salary. Teachers received $13.26. 16-17, there was a 1% raise. Teachers received $550. 17-18, there was a 3% raise. Teachers received $1,500. Starting salary went to $51,000 from $50,000. Increased, or you did, the contribution to the insurance. And in 18-19, if you remember, everyone received a $1,000 one-time payment. And as we put, and we're working with general numbers right now, but as we put the budget together, we're at the top of the needs. The social thing, and as are more difficult to get and to get those in place, so all they're being discussed. The budget is pick this up for a little while, give you all a break from me.
Again, can you hear that? So we're going to take a moment to review a little information from last month. It'll be new information to our new board members. We completed a salary study with TASB HR Services during this spring, and this shows a list of the market districts that we are comparing ourselves to. This does not have to do with the size of the districts based on their enrollment, but these are our competitors. These are the districts that we compete with when we are recruiting teachers, as well as some of the information that Mr. Templeton shared with you this evening. And so when looking at these districts, when looking at what we pay for positions in our district, this is our market comparison group. This next slide shows our teacher salary by years of experience. And so in Duncanville, at the very bottom, we're listed with a 0-year starting teacher salary of $51,000. So new teachers who joined the Duncanville ISD on this year, their starting pay, if they had 0 years of experience, was at $51,000. If you'll see where that red arrow is, that shows where our starting teacher salary is in comparison to the market districts. If you follow Duncanville ISD across the bottom, it'll show where we are for 0 years of experience, 5 years at 52.3, 10 years, 53.8, 15 years at 55.5, and 20 years, 58.58. And that's for teachers who are joining our district new. This graph will show our market salaries and how we are trending with the districts in that comparison group. And so the blue line represents the local median market. So that is all of those other districts together and the average pay at those various years of experience. And the orange line shows where Duncanville is. So you can see on this slide that based on our market district, we are trending behind in this area. So as we have completed the study, there are some areas of focus for us that we are paying very close attention to. And those are our auxiliary employees. Those are our bus drivers, our custodians, our monitors, our food service assistants. You heard Mr. Templeton talk about the fact that these are service industry positions and very difficult for us to feel. We feel the effects of that daily. These are the individuals who get our kids to school safely every day, who make sure our buildings are clean and safe, and we want them here, we need them here, and so we want to make sure that that is an area of focus for us so that we can remain competitive or become more competitive in the market to recruit and to keep those individuals. And so we see that turnover rate. We may get them here, and when something pays a little bit more, what happens? Then they leave. And so we invest a lot of training into these individuals as well, so we want to keep them here. The other area that's a focus area for us is our instructional support. These are our instructional aides, our library aides. Those individuals, of course, our teachers are doing great work in the classroom and depend upon this support for our instructional aides to ensure that instruction is happening for our students. This is another area of focus for us because we see the turnover in this area as well. If they have an offer for more money, then we are constantly training and bringing in. That does not provide the consistency we want for our students. So based on the information that we're sharing tonight, all staff would receive a 3% raise, at least a 3% from the midpoint raise based on their pay group. Staff who are below the market value would also receive a market value adjustment using those recommendations from the salary study. And so what an adjustment does is you get the 3% and then you get an adjustment on top of that to make sure that your salary is competitive to the market, and that would be for our internal employees.
Have we identified?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. We've identified by person, by position, who would be below the market and what their exact adjustment would be if we had a 3% increase. It's in the information that the salary study in that binder. The people aren't in there, but those positions and the adjustments are in that information. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Okay, and so what we'll do now is walk through some examples of what this would look like. These are actual examples of employees in the district. And so this is a transportation of one of our bus drivers who is in our AUX 4 pay grade. You'll see that boxed in red. This employee's hourly pay rate currently for this year is $16.73 an hour. With a market adjustment, plus the 3% increase, if that is what the board chose, their hourly pay rate for the upcoming school year would increase to $18.16 per hour, and that individual would see $2,080 a year in addition to what they currently make, and that makes a huge impact for our staff. Next, one of our instructional support staff members. This is a classroom aide. Their current hourly pay rate is $10.96 per hour. With the market adjustment plus their 3% increase, this individual would make $11.62 per hour and would see a $925 a year increase. Another example is one of our food service assistants who are in our auxiliary 1 pay grade. That current pay structure for this person is $9.32 an hour. With their market adjustment and a 3% increase from the midpoint, they would increase to $10.05 per hour and would see an impact of $1,039 per year. Okay. And so all of these slides go through and show the exact information. You can see the custodial impact for one of our custodians at $12.29. With those adjustments and the raise, you'll see the impact of $12.92 per hour and their annual increase about $13.17. As we look at our new teachers, we know that this is also an area of focus. We want to make sure that we are competitive in this area. We know that our starting teacher pay is $51,000 a year. So that's a brand new teacher coming to us with 0 years of experience. With the 3% increase, of course, our starting pay for teachers would increase. And so we would move from $51,000 for a teacher with 0 years experience to any teacher joining our district in the 1920 school year with 0 years of experience. Their starting pay would be $52,500. If a teacher joined our district this current school year and they had 15 years of experience when they joined us, they would have been hired at $55,500. If we move with the 3% increase, a teacher that joined our district this year at $55,500, receiving that 3% increase, they would receive $1,700 per year. So that $1,700, that would impact every teacher who is currently employed with the district. That's what their 3% increase would be. So that same teacher would increase to next year, earning $57,200 per year. So these are just some of the examples. Of course, we could do this with any employee in the district, any pay group. For example, I know there was a question for our athletic trainers. They are in our AP1 pay grade. The AP1 pay grade would be impacted by this as well. So they would see an increase, 3%, and any adjustments to make sure that we are competitive in every area across the district. These are just some of the examples we chose. I'm sorry? Yes, sir?
You got these listed out. What would the athletic trainers raise be?
Well, these are based on individual people. So it would depend on that particular person. Each person makes a different amount based on the years of experience they brought to the district. So we can definitely figure that out with the 3% and any adjustment and what the impact would be.
Ms. Brown, how long have our classroom aides and nutrition services been below market?
Well, that depends on how far below the market. When we're looking at a salary study, we want to be within 10% of the market. Right now, this is the worst that we've been. We haven't been lagging. In previous years, we've been 4% and 5% below the market. Another thing to consider is our hiring schedules. And that's where all of our pay groups lie. It shows you what the minimum, the midpoint, and the max of each pay group is. And that changes around every 3 years as we make changes like this. And so it varies. So sometimes we find ourselves being more competitive than other times. But with the raises and things that we've given over the past years, we are trending behind in those areas. So we need to become more competitive.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do we think that just going back to the instructional support,
Mm-hmm.
the raise, if they receive the 3% raise, would the $11.62 keep them? Would that be enough where they wouldn't leave us?
Yes, so potentially, what the salary study does is it shows us what the increase would need to be to get us closer to the market value. So it's comparing not only jobs that are in school districts, but also jobs that they could go to outside of us. Same thing for our bus drivers who could go to DART. And so we're trying to remain competitive with those areas as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions I can answer? Yes, ma'am.
Have we looked at setting a floor for hourly pay, like?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Excellent presentation. number one. But I was wondering if we've ever looked at setting a floor for hourly compensation of, like $10 an hour or something like that.
So each pay group, we have a variety of pay grades, and so there's no base. It depends on each particular pay grade. So our lowest pay grade currently is that $9.32 an hour. That is the lowest pay grade that we currently have. With the change, let me go to that one so I can show you. With the $99.32, we would then have no pay grade that pays under $10.05. So that would be our new floor. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any more questions?
Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. And the return of Dr. Bigby.
I'd like to talk quickly through the draft budget that we put together, and I'll explain as we go exactly what we used to do that. First of all, we looked at the possibilities of what fund balance is going to look like in the maintenance operation. Those of you who are new that may not know, we have two buckets of money. One's maintenance and operation, that's for the daily operation of the school, and then debt service fund, which pays off the bonded debt. Here's that right now, we're probably going to have at least $2 million, around $2 million for the fund balance. We'll actually have considerably more than that. A lot of that will be the TRE money that hasn't been spent yet. Without the TRE money, it's going to settle somewhere a little over $52 million. Actually 45% over 5.2 months. Recommendation somewhere between 3 and 5, depending on who you listen. Very healthy fund balance. Debt service, in the year at $14 million, you allowed us to pay that excess pass out of that quite a bit less, so we had some better tax. Which is still 60% of our debt, and that's about fine. When this budget's been built with doing that same thing again next year, we have to look at doing something different to maintain a good, healthy fund balance and debt service. But right now, we're in good shape if you would allow us to do that again this year. Our budget development, we went through this very quickly last time, and I'll do it quickly again. January, we start by trying to calculate revenue, which has been tricky with the legislature in session, but we've done it off of information that we have. February, we take additional budget requests, all of SLT who are going to departments. This is 12 million, up to about 17 million. Healthy list. Talk to budget and their allocation for the budget and any needs that they might have. As we did the salary study, which you've seen and Ms. Brown talked about. March and April, we put all that together. We had the budget workshop in April, discussed these, got some recommendations from you folks and put those into it. We've been working on a draft budget with those recommendations. Tonight, we're presenting yes we have right now, and then on June 24th, we'll ask you to adopt the budget, and we'll have it full blown by then with all the different functions, it's just like we always have, so you can see a better breakdown than what I can give you tonight. There's three comparisons here. One is current law, as if nobody was in Austin right now. The second one is the committee substitute House Bill 3, which is the Senate bill. and the last one's the House Bill 3. In current law, we'll pick up about $8.2 million above what we budgeted last year before the TRE in TRE money. If you remember, that was a little over $9 million last year. Prior year, I don't want to really get tangled up in prior year, current year. As we got prior year values. Year coming in, we're going to have this lower from last year, and this year we're showing a 6.4%. Lost some money in that. It's personnel this year, there's personnel and some non. We're looking at paying half of it this year and half of it next year's budget. So you can see after the 8.2 million increase, when you subtract those three things, it leaves 3.48 million. They substitute House bill, we pick up an extra. Process raise. Still have the TRE edition, the same. Doesn't include $5,000 increase. Everyone else. Added funding in House Bill 3, we picked up $7.8 million in extra. And within the $1,850 teacher raise designated, we would have. Same with the TRE edition, same thing with the cost. That is about $10.9 million. 3% increase would cost, and would have an 8.2 left over to the other things. See who we're pulling for. Most districts are, if you prevalent. Once again, it didn't allow us to pay the INS extra out of fund balance. Think about it. Not a pretty picture for this year, but this is, we want to be accurate with it, and that's what it looks like. A quick comparison between the two. This doesn't start preaching like Mr. Templeton did. The basic allotment up to 60/30. You have the House bill and there is an increase in the basic allotment. There's some quick things to do, but paper it is. House Bill 3, that's where we picked up about $7 million in funding. House Bill 3 uses prior year values, which is what we've financed schools off of for years. The reason to do that mainly because we don't know the current. Remember, you adopt the budget in June, and we don't get values until July. Difficult. Senate bill moves to current year values. Plug that into the formulas, we lose about $6 million right off the bat. If you notice, Dallas said they lose about $100 million. $30 million. About 140 districts that gain from it. those are districts that their property values are going down. Metroplex is doing that. 840 districts that lose money because property values are going up. Be a champion of this. Long-term concerns, and will actually help me out with a lot of this. He talked about crash came years later. Legislature yanked about $1 billion worth of funding away from schools. They balanced the deficit budget. Since replaced about. That's the biggest concern is what they've written in law change in 2 years. Go back. Actually, a lot of it is more like a shopping for in 2 years. The $5,000 teacher raise is a concern. That's actually in there for. Didn't put it back in there, then we'd be left trying to figure out how to fund that. And they also spent about $3 billion out of the rainy day fund. And you're spending fund balance, ongoing expenses, and we, as you, board, know that's a no-no. But that's what's happened in the Senate bill. And changes to tax rates in the district, once again, we're working off of keeping the tax rate where it was as projected with current law, and not really sure what it's going to do to us or cities or anyone. Those are things that long-term can, even if we come out of this session, okay, then it's a little scary for those of you that are still here. The session comes around. Billington's going to go home by then. Development of the budget, we started with 2018-19. Even though we've got a declining, we're looking pretty much to stay at the same ADA. Actually, attendance is up just a little bit. Tax rates, set those at 35 cents. So we've done that with this. 4% property value growth, the initial growth that we got prior to this. But when you look historically, that drops to the certified value. Set at a higher number and then conservative number. Go in the 3-point raise, raise and the adjustments. Health insurance is $11 a month. Take the employee plan, add that $11 a month in, cover the 1,147 is how many we have this year. We're assuming we'll have next year, so that's about $150,000. Dr. Smith went earlier, the recommendations that we got from you at the workshop included those 4 items with green research, OTC. And then it would be this is just cut out of the one with the 3. This is what we're proposing to you. Go on the current law, and then changes for January. Hopefully we can get that worked into the budget. If not, if it changes afterwards, if there's a you have to adopt the budget. Once again, it's summarized at 3% staff raise of midpoint, and the TASB recommended adjustments. Starting teacher pay would go to $52.5, $11 a month increase for insurance contribution. We've added the counselor's assistant principal. 11919 ADA for the new ones. based off of how many kids come to school, not how many that we have enrolled. And M&O tax rate of $1.17, INS.
I just want to say that I don't think we talked about in our budget workshop paying the $11 increase. We probably didn't know what it was at the time. Again, because we paid money to their insurance last year, helping them, even though we didn't give them and I just appreciate that fact, because so many times you hear teachers say, well, I didn't get a raise because it's eating up, my insurance is eating it up. So I appreciate that because we didn't talk about it.
We didn't have the rates, and we knew we were going to try to bring that to you. We just didn't know how much it was.
So that is one thing for sure, the $11 increase in insurance, okay.
Once again, that's the high deductible employee rates.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what percentage of our employees have that plan?
1,140 of that particular plan.
I mean, who will be receiving the 11?
Everybody will get it regardless
Okay.
of which plan they pick.
Okay. Just
won't
We'll just
show.
contribute that much more to it. It won't
Yeah.
cover all.
I see.
With some of them.
If you happen to be on that plan and don't have anyone on there with you, then it will cover your increase. The rest of them will still get the $11.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I got a couple. Says the assistant principals, how many boots on the ground is that?
We put 3 assistant principals and 3 each of academic counselors and social emotional.
So we are looking at adding social and emotional counselors back?
Yes.
They're in the budget.
And then 3 academic counselors on top of what we've got right now?
3 academic, well, no, we're not adding academic counselors.
Not adding, we're just adding 3. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, I got you.
Counselors in the budget, I
Okay,
don't, what they are doesn't get to me.
okay.
Yeah.
3 social and emotional.
So the way we kind of looked at it is that, I wanted to address the main pieces that y'all talked about. So we would have 3 that would be targeted toward the social, emotional, restorative practice piece. And then we'd have 3 that would assist, kind of relieve our regular counselors with some of the non-counselor type duties that they have.
Okay, so we are
Yeah.
adding like 3. I mean,
Mhm.
to help with, okay.
In certified counselors, not aides or?
They would be certified. Mhm.
Any more questions?
So, just for the sake of the board, though, in terms of next steps. So, I take the feedback that you've given me. I think I heard, I think it'd be good if we gave you a breakdown on the trainers. Sorry about that, I lost my train of thought. But we gave you a breakdown on the athletic trainers, just like we did on the others, so that you could see the impact if you gave a 3% raise, and if they got the adjustments, or they would get the adjustments, you could see the impact that that would have. So I'll push that out to you all.
And that was in what that you gave us?
So,
Compensation?
no.
I remember getting like that.
Right, so the compensation plan was just the plan that showed where they were. It wasn't this information, because at that time, I didn't know that you all wanted that, so that just came from the feedback. But it's, you may recall, we prepared a binder for you all, and I'll get it to the new ones, when you requested copies of the compensation plan. So we provided all that to you. But I'll just be taking your feedback, welcome your feedback, as we work our way to finalize the budget. And then I'll be proactively putting, the pieces together for you.
I think it's amazing that just based on what we know right now, that we do end up with something, you know? It's amazing. The TRE really helped us out.
Yes.
We would have really been in trouble
Really,
this year.
really.
Well, there wouldn't have been any raises, there wouldn't be any additional.
And that you got a 3% raise in there, and then some other non-personnel costs. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's not much, but
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question. How soon will we be getting information on the ROTC NAVID programs?
Yeah, so, where I am tonight, it's just going to take me some time to get there.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I really, we've been working on this for a few years now, and I really want to get our ROTC back.
Absolutely.
And it is still a focus for me. I just don't know if I can make it happen with this budget, with everything else we're talking about.
any more questions? Thank you, Dr. Bigby and Dr. Smith. We now move into our communications from citizens. And before you wait, okay, we do have one. Amy Linton, before you make your way to the front, please allow me to read the following. State law prohibits board members from responding to speakers in public forum unless the topic regards a matter specifically posted on tonight's agenda. The board will carefully consider any concerns expressed, and an administrator will investigate the matter. At your request, the administrator will contact you regarding your concern. Speakers will limit their comments to 5 minutes. If more than 5 speakers are present, speakers must limit their comments to 3. If delegations of more than 5 people plan to speak on the same topic, they should appoint 1 representative to speak in their behalf or be limited to 5 speakers. Any discussion concerning specific personnel is prohibited in open session. If you wish to address the board regarding a personnel matter, please contact the superintendent's office to schedule the matter for a future closed session meeting. So would Amy Linton? Would you please come and state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes to address the board.
My name is Amy Manette Linton. I live at 10824 Dinah Drive in Austin, Texas, 78748. Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. My name is Amy Linton, Duncanville High School graduating class of 1998, former Silver Flag and Hi-Hat. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the current and former Hi-Hats at the drastic change to the standing tradition we all know and love. I was one of the fortunate students to march under the direction of Dr. Tom Shine and Director Christy Beatty, who instilled in us that pride makes the difference. I'm a part of the 45-year tradition of the Hi-Hats marching together with the band, the tradition that has made us notorious for having 300 to 400 high school students on the field year after year. The tradition that taught me and so many of us how to work together as a team, how to look up to adults I still admire today, and encourage me to become friends with so many peers I can still call my friends today. That tradition was ended earlier this year. While I understand traditions have their time, and I wholeheartedly understand the need for change, the manner in which this tradition was disregarded is what our issue is. I'll get back to that, but let me set the stage for you. The Hi-Hats have been under the direction of Christy Beatty for 29 years. Over 29 years, the Hi-Hats have received countless marching awards. We have danced amongst the band with the use of flags, props, and round hoops covered in shiny fabric we call dots, skirts made by our linebacker parents, sleeves with fabrics made to look like flames. From my understanding, the band director is looking to move to a more different direction for our band that adds more pizzazz, to achieve more points, assumingly to ultimately win state and other competitions. I've read the UIL State Marching Contest Judges' comment sheet, just to see how much emphasis is placed on the visual aspect of the performance. The sentence that stands out to me the most is, marching judges should solely focus on visual content only. So if the point is to win state, some aspect regarding the sheer size of a color guard should be vitally important, knowing that they want a color guard that has a higher level of work and choreography, for example, like tossing rifles, sabers, and flags. Now to get back to our issue. Educators are remembered for many things other than just teaching. Instilling trust, faith, how hard work truly pays off, helping us find our ambition, providing understanding, being nurturing, showing compassion,
having patience, the value of inclusion and acceptance. But most of all, they are leaders in our young lives where some of us may not have had any. Leadership is a blessing and a curse. It requires educators, leaders, to always have their best face forward, to be thinking of how to resolve and collaborate to come to a mutual agreement. These are vitally important in students' lives as they move towards from their formative years into adulthood. Good leaders are excellent communicators. Consider for a moment we have a leader who has chosen to take the easy route and forego a potentially hard conversation with a peer. Something so difficult, it directly affects that peer and their entire group. A decision that effectively changes that peer's direction from what they have traditionally done to a path never created. Once again, we aren't here to ask for a decision to be changed. We are asking for the consideration of the circumstance to be reviewed and appropriate consideration taken. Are we teaching our students that running away from a problem and avoiding having difficult conversations is okay? Are we also then teaching our students that completely ignoring the situation and refusing to have conversations about it is also okay? I think that is the complete opposite of what educators leave with our young lives. Most people don't look at a school like a workplace, but teachers, administrators, counselors, and principals are all part of this workplace. The animosity created by a single person has caused a ripple effect to hundreds. In fact, that same person has also taken down an alumni Facebook page for the band, silver flags, and hi-hats. So none of us can share our memories of our favorite pastimes, much less see old photographs and posts from others. Now we have injected social media stigma of what teenagers face today with cyberbullying and our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. And furthermore, how can such a drastic decision to a 45-year tradition be made without proper authority approval? So again, why are we here? We just want to show the board that we care. We want to ensure you understand how important traditions and pride are to those of us who have walked those halls, sat in those classrooms, and marched and danced on that field. We also want you to understand we embrace change every day. Some are easier because of the educators we had in our lives who showed us the path to integrity wasn't as far away as we thought. Those same educators taught us how hard it is to get that same integrity back. I'd like to leave you all with something one of former hi-hat said because I think she said it best. It's never been about the marks in the win column that has made the Duncanville the city of champions. It's been about the character.
Thank you, Ms. Linton, and believe me,
Thank you.
an administrator will be in touch with you. Thank you so much. Is that all? All the comments?
That's
Okay.
all the speakers
All right,
for
thank
today.
you for attending our meeting tonight. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Aren't we have a closed
Oh,
session.
you know what? We do. Oh, we get to stay up later. No, we're going to go into a closed session now. So,
But the regular board meeting,
pardon me?
the regular board.
Yeah, the regular board meeting, we're finished, but we have business to take care of in closed session. Thank you. Impression.
Didn't work tonight, did it?
No.
Okay.
This meeting is adjourned.